Well, welcome everybody to our online interview here live from Ocean Forest in Sea Island. Beautiful club here, and really appreciate everybody taking the time. And certainly want to thank Steve and Bob for being here and taking the time out of their day here and the event they're playing in to do this for us and talk a little bit about the golf industry and what's going on. Want to thank the staffs at Sea Island and Ocean Forest for being so accommodating for us. Corey Wrights and Brennan Veal and John Wade and Brandon Yeomans have all been great and taking care of us. So thank you to all those guys. We're going to go through some this interview here today, and I want to keep this for everybody that's on the call as interactive as possible. We can take questions, and this is your opportunity to ask Steve and Bob any questions that you might have around golf. We're certainly going to keep a conversation going here, but if there are questions about anything to do with the golf industry, we want to keep it open to that. Thought I'd start out just asking you guys to kind of give us a brief update on where you've been, what's been going on with Steve and Bob recently, and maybe a little bit about how you got into the golf business originally. Just kind of neat to hear. I'm sure a lot of the people on this call might know that, but there's a lot of younger guys maybe that don't know the complete story about how you guys got into the golf industry. So.
Okay, well, a lot to that question, I guess, but what I'm doing currently is I'm the director of golf at the Capital City Club in Atlanta. Just about 2 years now. Really enjoy my position there. Moved there from Frederica Golf Club right here in St. Simon. So it's been a wonderful adjustment for myself and my family, and different size membership. We had about 300 members at Frederica Golf Club. We're about 2,200 members at Capital City. So quite a different operation, but enjoying it quite a bit. And I first got in the golf business really picking a range and caddying. In the Northeast, I grew up in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. Worked for a really fun and good playing professional, teaching professional named David Glens. David was and still is a mentor in a lot of ways, and really got me interested in golf. Worked the junior programs for David. Worked through the junior programs with David, and caught the golf bug that way. Once I got out of school, started working for David, teaching in the New York, New Jersey area, and then finished up my apprenticeship with Bob at Oakmont.
What years were you with Bob at Oakmont?
I worked for Bob at 97 to 99, the late 90s, yeah, 97 to 99. Had a great time there. We had a wonderful team. Billy Anderson, part of the team there, Jeff Deal, Ryan Garrity.
Who worked?
Yeah, that's a good question. Who worked?
Well, that crowd.
Exactly. But finished my apprenticeship there, and I had a great time. Yeah.
And then where were you directly after leaving Oakmont?
I left Oakmont to take a head professional position in Philadelphia at the St. David's Golf Club in Wayne, right on the main line. Was there for a short time, just a couple of years, and an opportunity opened in Vero Beach, Florida. Nick Price and Tommy Fazio did a golf course down there. The fellows that owned the Dodgers, the baseball team, started the club there, and it was a good chance to start a club from scratch. It was a wonderful opportunity to get involved in a new project, create your own traditions, and which interested me greatly at the time. Still does, but it really interested me greatly at the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Quail Valley in Vero Beach, Florida.
Quail Valley, Vero Beach, Florida. Yeah.
Pretty cool spot.
It is. It is. It turned out it's a really neat spot. Steve Mulvey and Kevin Gibbon, the two operators there and owners, do a fabulous job. And Don Meadows, I think, is a GBM member. Don does a wonderful job there now.
Yeah.
It was a fun project to be involved with, very fun.
And all that led you to where you're at now.
It did. It's funny. Leaving Quail Valley, came to Sea Island and Frederica Golf Club from there. Was about 7.5 years in Vero Beach and about 7.5 at Frederica as well. So I've had some change in my career, obviously, over the time with mentioning these positions that I've had, but I've always tried to grow as a professional, try to pick opportunities that were of good interest to me and that I thought would do well at. So.
you've done well.
Thanks.
Obviously.
Been fortunate. Been very fortunate.
Better warn the people of Capital City about your 7-year itch.
They're in good shape.
So Bob, how did you get into the golf industry?
Well, you know, I went to school in Tampa, and Lou Worsham was the pro at Oakmont during the '73 Open, and I wrote him a letter to ask him if I could do anything. They actually hired me to work in the shop the week before, during, and after that Open, and I was going to graduate in '75. I went down to see him again to ask him. I really wanted just to ask him if he thought I could play the tour or not, you know. And he said, "Why don't you come to Pittsburgh and work for me, and I'll find out whether you can play or not." And thank goodness I couldn't play, and he retired, and I was fortunate enough to get picked to do that job in 1980. So I'm getting ready to start my 37th and final year at Oakmont.
Wow.
And I'm excited about it.
Congratulations.
We're hosting the U.S. Open this summer, so it'll really be a thrill and a treat. And Devin Gee is going to take my position there, who's a 10-year assistant for me. Started as an intern, but 10 years all told.
Wow.
So we're excited for Devin, and I'm still going to do Seminole in the winter for another 4 or 5 years if they'll have me, and still go back to Pittsburgh and play Oakmont in the summers, and enjoy some time off. Looking forward to that.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, this organization, GBN, and you know, how it was originated as AMF, and obviously two of the original founders here. And thought it'd be neat to just hear from the two of you on how you came together and, you know, had the idea. You know, do you remember the exact moment that you had that idea? Because I know, you know, for me, when I started my business, I have the moment in my mind when it happened. But just thought it'd be neat to hear you guys kind of talk about that.
Well, I asked all of my assistants in the 90s, you know, find something else we could do, you know, that would be fun that we could make some money at. And actually, it was to get out of being a golf professional and do something else, but, you know, we didn't do that, and that's all good. But Steve actually was the only guy to take me up on it, and he started an LLC and said, you know, you help get a lot of guys jobs, and you do a lot of searches, you know, for free. And why don't we get in that business? And we talked about it. And then we ran into Bob Mulcahy, who's the M in AMF. And he was doing some really neat work with some professionals in New Jersey with year-end reviews to present to their boards, which Steve and I thought was an awesome idea and a great opportunity. And Bob was somebody that could actually run this business that we started, AMF. And we did it for like 6 years. Obviously, Steve and I working full-time jobs, and Bob was running the show. And you know, as we got out of that business, we were just unhappy with the direction it was going in, and we both got out, which kind of leads us to our next issue, which why are we getting back in with you? And I was just happy to see somebody else take it over. I was really pleased to see all the neat things that you're doing with the company. And so I gave you a call about getting back in, and I called Steve and said, Steve, we need to get back in. And, you know, it's a way for us to get back to the young guys and obviously do some searches, which will be fun. But, you know, the golf professional, when these guys leave, you know, particularly me, and they go on to their own jobs, they're pretty alone, you know, and we really have nobody to call. It's kind of the shame about, you know, the PGA is just so big that they can't cater to any particular group. So they try to, you know, we try to cater to everybody. They do a great job, but, you know, the high-end golf professional at the high-end clubs just doesn't have anybody to call. So you're really our guy. You know, if you're going to call, you're the Ghostbuster. Right? So we need somebody to, you know, to accumulate data for us, you know, when we need some issues taken care of. And so we're excited that you're back, Patrick, running it. We love what you're doing, and we hope to be able to contribute to you to make your life easier and to help some young golf professionals.
Well, I think I speak for everybody on this call, and myself, that, you know, really pleased to have both of you involved again. And, you know, you're the reason I got involved when I was an assistant. So I wouldn't be in this seat, certainly wouldn't be, you know, some of the positions I held if I hadn't been a member of AMF and had the opportunities through AMF. So thank you guys for starting that and now kind of coming full circle and doing what you're doing with us. So really looking forward to our association.
That's our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Thought a neat topic might be to talk a little bit about, and it's always a hot topic, the job market. The head professional job market or director of golf job market right now. And Steve and I were kind of talking about this offline beforehand. And this, what's the sense, or kind of want to get your feedback on where do you see that now? What is are there fewer opportunities that there have been in the past, or does it just seem that way maybe because there's more people after those opportunities? I don't know. Just thinking of what I'm sensing in the market. But Bob, what are you sensing?
Well, I think there's fewer opportunities. I think that the younger generation is really taken over most of the big jobs, and it's going to be a long time before they open up. There's always a half dozen, maybe a dozen jobs open up every fall. Some guys retiring, some guys lose their jobs, and there'll always be that. But it's shrinking, no question.
So with that, how does somebody succeed in that market? I mean, what's your advice for, Steve, your head professionals that maybe want to make that move to become a director of golf?
Right.
What are you kind of coaching them up on now?
Well, shoot, it's a tough market, as Bob said. So to echo his sentiments, I think there are fewer opportunities for the younger professionals to look at. It seems that some of the jobs have turned over to younger folks, and the jobs that where older professionals were there, or I think they're staying a little bit longer in their jobs. They're really, I think they're enjoying what they're doing. They really look forward to continuing that. And I don't think they're leaving the jobs as maybe they did in the past. So we really encourage our head professionals. I have two. We have two golf courses at Capital City Club. I have a head professional at Crabapple and one at Brookhaven. Both facilities are unique in their own right. One is quite a bit busier than the other one. We do probably 2-to-1 rounds of golf at Brookhaven and Crabapple. But having said that, the professional at Brookhaven is a young man named Eric Reeves, very talented young guy. And I see Eric being there between 3 and 5 years. He's a good player, so I encourage them to really work on their game, play in the section tournaments and things. And we're constantly looking at our operation, how we can get better, whether it's educational nights with vendors, or if you're not looking at your operation up and down, you're going to get passed by. And one of the things that we're really trying to do is bring some new energy, continue to network. I would encourage the younger professionals, just like what you're doing here. Why we started this whole business was to network with others and build your network in that regard. Continue to have your name out there in front of whether you're playing in tournaments or in professional awards and things of that nature. Serve the PGA, which I think is a big thing as well. I know many of us have done that over the years. Serve the section boards or tournament chairmen and the like. But it is competitive, but I think you've got to stay fresh. You've got to my personal opinion, you've got to be willing to move, to take an opportunity. And I think some kids, younger professionals, I want them to really research the job they're going to take. Sometimes I think they take a job just to get the title, and it's really not a good opportunity. And then it becomes a situation where maybe their position's eliminated down the road, or it's not a great fit. And then you've got to take a step or two back to get back into a network to try and build up your resume again.
I've got a question. Do you think it's more important for a younger golf professional to look at who they're going to work for or where they're going to work, or is it somewhere in between?
It's a combination of those two. Yeah.
Too.
Where you're going is, what kind of exposure are you going to get? What kind of opportunities are you going to get to do what you do? And, you know, the guys, I mean, there's guys out there that, you know, are really good at moving guys on, and, you know, I'd be shooting for one of those guys.
Right. So, with that same question that Steve just answered, how do you prepare your staff to be successful in this, you know, in this market? Now, they've come to work for you for a reason, and your facilities and everything, but you know, that doesn't always guarantee success. So how do you know? Club opens up, there's 200 resumes, and you know, what would you tell somebody? How do they get their name into the whatever it is, 25 or 30 that they're actually going to look at?
Well, I've got a theory on that.
Oh, good.
You know, I had a fellow work for me one time, and he said, you know, how am I going to become a top 100 teacher? And I said, well, make people play better, which just means, you know, be good at what you do. And the guys are really good at what they do, get the jobs, you know, and they're properly networked. You know, everybody knows who they are, and everybody's rooting for them, and just really be passionate about what you do, and be good at what you do, and cream rises to the top.
That's a good theory. Had a couple of questions here that came through. I thought it'd be good to maybe take some from our audience here. First of all, David Coates said he worked for Mr. Archer, so he just wanted to mention that. Well, I won't tell you what he said in this text here, but he's listening right now. One question is, what are a few traits in a professional that clubs and search committees look for when hiring a head golf professional? And you might have just touched on a couple of those, but maybe there's some others.
Shoot, I think they're looking for just what Bob said, someone who's passionate about the job, brings a new level of energy to the position. They want to look at things a little bit differently, re-energize the programs if they need it. Like in Capital City, when I took over there, the professional was there for 40 years, had a wonderful operation there, did a great job. So my goal was really to try and bring new staff in, because a lot of the staff had left when he retired. So it was a good opportunity for me to bring some new young folks in, change the culture to the way I liked it. I saw how the operation might work. You know, I'm really looking for kids that are self-motivated, love the game, can play the game well, and anticipate. And I think that's the biggest thing that I look for in kids. They can anticipate whether it's the next step, what we're going to be doing next, what's the next evolution of our program. And so that's really what I'm looking for with kids. I really want them to be hospitality oriented, but anticipation is a big key for me.
So, how important is the playing aspect of that?
Huge. It's everything.
It can be. I mean, a lot of clubs are looking for somebody that can, you know, that can beat all their members. A lot of clubs aren't. You know, I mean, I've had a lot of guys move on that, you know, were B-type players that are great golf professionals and weren't great players, but they were great people. They loved what they did. They were really good at what they did. And, you know, I mean, playing's not the end all, but it's a quicker way to get out, you know, and people get to know your name a little quicker and notice, you know, but it's not absolute.
So, how does, and Steve, this might be a good one for you, is I mean, we were talking a little bit about this, but the work-life balance for staff members and yourself, obviously it's changed probably a lot over the last, 15, 20 years, but, you know, how does somebody manage family, you know, working on their game, you know, the instruction that they need to do to, you know, generate the income, all that. I mean, and there may not be there's probably no silver bullet answer there, but how do you manage that with your staff?
Well, Bob may have a better perspective on that than I do, but I'm sure he's got great thoughts on it. But from my end, I always try and hire great people. I try and hire the best people I can get, give them as much autonomy as I can. I want them to make a decision and not always have to come with me or come to me to get an answer. So I think that's the key, is to have great people, train them as best you can, and you want to let them run a little bit. And if we make a stub our toe, we make an error, we can fix it, but really, I think the key is to have good people in your key positions and let them grow. We're not gonna let them fall, but maybe trip a little bit.
They gotta skin their knees a little bit.
But at the end of the day, I think that's the key to it, is to have good quality people. And you've gotta be committed to, family first. It's something that I personally struggle with all the time, is how much time you're spending at the office versus how much time you are at home. I've got a young daughter, and I know you've got, 3 kids under 6, so it's a challenge for you as well. But you've got to be committed, and you've got to have great people working with you. What do you think?
You gotta have a great wife.
Yeah.
You got a great wife that understands the game. Most guys are in seasonal jobs. Your season's a little longer than most.
It is.
In
Yeah.
Atlanta, some guys have year-round jobs, but we go really hard for 4 or 5 months. We're away. Spend 70, 80 hours at the club, and the wife has to understand that. And then in the wintertime, you get to spend a lot of time with them. So it balances out. There's no great formula, Patrick, to doing that. You just gotta freewheel it. Nobody has the answers, but you just gotta do the best you can with what you got.
I think this might lead us into our next speaking point about recruiting and hiring staff, which Steve mentioned a couple times here about hiring good people. But we kind of touched on this. But what specifically, what traits are you looking when you first meet someone as a potential assistant? What are you looking for right away? I mean, you've seen the resume, maybe where they've been, who they've worked for, but what are you looking for when you make that first impression?
Well, I like to introduce them to other members of the club, or the other team members, basically on our staff, see how they interact with one another. I'm looking for someone that's comfortable in their own skin, who's committed, wants to make this a career, has really thought about that to a long end, if you will. But playing golf with them is always revealing. I know that's something that you've done, Bob's done over the years with virtually pretty much every assistant I would imagine that he's hired. And there's been many that have gone on to their own head professional jobs. I couldn't say how many, probably about 50 maybe, yeah. Close, probably 50 professionals when they've gone through Bob's program. But I think it's how comfortable they are in their own skin, how they interact with members, how passionate they are. Are they present in the interview? Are they right there, right now with you, and excited about an opportunity? Like all those things really come into play. Obviously, the credentials you've vetted those out. Obviously, and you're gonna do your homework and on the people that are applying for the position. But I think a lot of it is chemistry and how they interact with the staff, how they interact with members, how they interact to adversity on the golf course if it comes up. And
well, it's gonna come up.
Yeah, it does for me. I know that, but I think that's a big part of it.
Well, Patrick, I really look to all the former guys to bring somebody forward to say, I've got a kid that's just unbelievable. You got to meet him. So, meet him and play golf with him and have dinner with him and try and interact with him. And the other pool that I draw from is the team that I now have. They're friends. They're guys they went to school with, guys that they feel would make great teammates. And it's important that the team has a great chemistry, more so than me and that guy, but the team likes this guy, approves of him, and obviously the good manners and how he conducts himself and all those kind of things. Usually, the top guys all kind of get it, and then it's actually tough to pick. It's like many of these job searches, you get it down to 5 or 6 guys, any one of them would be great. I mean, it's hard. I mean, these young guys are really knock it dead. They're really good at what they do.
Well, that's interesting. You know, you talk about the 5 or 6; they're all really good. And you know, Steve, you've been successful attaining some of those positions. What do you feel like? You know, was there anything specific for you that you felt put you over the top with some of the committees?
No, I don't. I think just good fortune, frankly. Just be in the right place at the right time, truthfully.
Yeah, it was luck for him.
No, you know what I mean.
Steve's a superstar, you know, he's
Well,
one of our bright, terrific professionals out there.
But
He's
a
one
lot
of
of it is being in the right place at the right time. Timing in life is everything.
Right.
The opportunity, and when they come open, is it the right fit? It could be the right, whether it's culturally or geographically, all those things. So, but echo Bob's sentiments again. When we look for a professional or a head professional or an assistant professional, we really reach out to our friends in the industry and the past team members and who would be a good fit. I'm sure you know someone in the industry who would be a good fit for what we're trying to do. Understands the commitment and the responsibility of the job. You know, one of the things that I always thought was so great about working for Bob was over the years, just the camaraderie of the group. It was really it's almost a self-perpetuating system where the older guys would really take the younger assistants under the wing, and we self-policed a lot of it, the staff, you know, in terms of helping educate what their role was, what their responsibility was, how they should act, how they should dress, how they conduct themselves, what the expectation was, not only working for Bob but at the clubs we were at. So it was great to learn from the older guys the way it should be and the way it was done in the past, and we really worked hard on trying to grow the family from within, if you will, just elevate
Right.
people up.
It's like being on a team, a sports team, and
It
freshmen
really
coming
is.
in and
That's
getting
right. There's
A's
a
by the
lot of
seniors.
parallels. A lot of parallels that say, you know, whether it's college basketball or what have you, you've got seniors and you're trying to groom the young guys and how to bring the program forward.
Right. Well, we've had a couple questions come in here I thought we'd maybe look at. So David did have a question
Sure.
when he came in here, and he says pace of play is getting worse, and our members are looking for us to aid in this. At his club, timing each group so many times, pace of play, chair, golf committee, nothing happens. I'm feeling that we're wasting time. What do you? I mean, we probably won't figure this question out right now, but
that's like a unicorn.
in my experience, I mean, I spent a lot of time on the golf course, whether it was checking on groups. You're always looking at pace because that's such a huge issue. But I mean, are there any tricks that you guys have had in the past to help pace of play? How's pace of play? I mean, Bob, you probably don't have to do that much, but Steve, you might.
You know, we've got a large membership at Capital City and play about almost 40,000 rounds at Brookhaven at our one golf course. It's designed such where it's easy to get around. There's not a big walk between tees and greens. There's a lot of peer pressure there to play at a quicker pace. You know, I think that's the key to it. Frankly, we do go out and monitor play pace when needed, obviously, but there's a lot of pressure in the locker room. If you don't play in a timely manner, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah.
So the membership plays at a quick pace. They expect the members to do so. And if you bring guests, you know, we educate them. We're on the first tee, talk to them about time par and things of that nature. And they pretty much police themselves to a large degree. I know that's probably not norm for a lot of places, and I know that's a topic that's very difficult. Moving folks along the golf course, if it's a 4.5 hour pace or what have you, it's no fun. But
Yeah.
Obviously, Bob at Seminole and Oakmont, I don't know if that's a culture that Bob created on his own, or it's always been that way. But you know, I can tell you, if you don't play in a timely manner at both of those places, you're gonna hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell George that if his golf chairman and club president and board aren't all aboard on this issue, I wouldn't do anything. I'd leave everybody alone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has to come from the top. There has to be policies in place where this, you know, this is gonna happen. You do it again, this is what's gonna happen. You do it a third time, this is what's gonna happen. And they have to be, yes, really be strong, and if you don't have somebody behind it, I'd forget about it.
Yeah.
Really.
You gotta have the support to be able to.
Well, you're fighting a losing battle if you don't have the support
Right.
as well, yeah. And that's exactly right, you really need that.
Another question here was from Steve Scott. It says, in the ever-changing club landscape where the club seems to always take ownership of the shop, is there a convincing argument you might bring to the table to a board or committee to try and change their mind? Club
Change your mind to.
about taking the shop over. I think he's saying.
To stop them from taking the shop and
I
have
think
a
that's-
professional continue to own it?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Bob and I have had a little bit of a conversation about this, and a brief, I mean, to be honest with you, but, you know, for me, the club owns a shop at Capital City. It's their money, so I really pay attention to it, obviously. Careful with it, want to make sure we protect it and grow as much revenue as we can. I probably spend, if it was my money, I'd still spend time on it. I may not spend as much time on it if it was my money. Whereas it's their money, I'm very, very concerned and want to make sure that everything is on board, so I spend more time with it. So the argument might be, if you have one, is if I own the shop, I've got more time to spend with the members. That may be a reverse viewpoint of what the members might think, but I think that's probably more accurate.
I would say, you know, I don't mind making a mistake with my money,
Right.
but you make a mistake with their money, you're in trouble.
Right.
And, but as far as Steve's concerned, you know, it all gets down to compensation. And, you know, if they've owned it and they know how much they make from it and they wanna pay you X, I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out the deal. You know, at Oakmont, we're in a tour, I own the shop, but we're sharing the revenue. You know, there's a formula, and, you know, Devin's gonna buy it from me, he's gonna take it over. And, you know, from my standpoint, I just think that the golf professional at the club, now Steve, I think it's just a couple guys own his place, it's a little different, but when you have a revolving door like at Oakmont, you know, I never wanted members coming down and telling me, you know, I'm on the board of XYZ company and I want you to carry my product, and I wanna make those decisions, you know, and I don't want any, if they owned it, they go to their friends on the board and say, you need to make this happen, then they'd come down and put some heat on me, and I wouldn't have much choice. But when I own it and it's my decision, they're pretty standoffish about it, which is good. And so the control factor is an issue.
So that's the argument there, is that if it's club owned, you might end up with a lesser presentation or product because of maybe some of these outside pressures,
Right.
versus having somebody that's an expert and, you know, knows how to merchandise, and then they can do it the way that they want to do it.
If you take it over, you better be good at it.
Right. Good question. Good questions from everybody here. Got another one here from Joe Alden. Many general managers are not golfers or understand the business. What are some ways that Bob and Steve find successful in winning over their general managers? How many general managers have you worked with over the years?
Maybe 10. Yeah. You know, I've always tried to be pals. Now, I don't work for a general manager at either club that I report to.
Mm-hmm.
We're all even, you know, the manager, the professional, the superintendent.
Has it always been that way at Oakmont?
It has.
Okay.
It has, thank goodness. And, you know, I care as much about each of them. I mean, we're a team, and we've got to work together, and we've got to support each other, because, you know, the one guy kind of goes astray on his own. He's kind of going in the deep end by himself. So, you know, I have a lot of empathy for the manager's job, because I think it's much more harder than mine, and the superintendent's job, because it's all so weather related and cyclical. And so I really feel for both of those guys and try to help them as much as I can.
Yeah, pretty similar approach on my end. You know, it's a team effort. It really is always about the team. I try to communicate a lot and maybe over communicate things that are happening at the club, whether it's with the superintendent or the general manager. But it's imperative that you've got a good relationship, and focus on the team aspect. I just can't say enough about that. And Bob's had that philosophy over the years, and I've sort of taken on that same approach. One guy's not going to get the job done. There's so much to do at a place like Capital City. We do 60,000 rounds of golf. We've got 2,200 members. We do 100,000 touches in fitness. I mean, there's so many aspects of that operation that you've got to have great people all around. And if you're not communicating well, it's going to be a tough out.
Yeah. Always an interesting dynamic with.
Pretty tough. Pretty tough.
Yeah. It can be.
Those guys, the golf professional gets to have lunch in the grill room with the members, and he goes out to dinner with them, and he plays golf with them, and manager, superintendent, seeing that happen and seeing the advantage that the golf professional gets, and it's, if they don't have the right ego situation going in, I mean, I've had plenty of problems with each of my guys. Once they go kind of sideways, then they're kind of on their own for me.
Good question there. Another question here from Mark Gammons. How much time do you dedicate to training, and do you have a budget line just for training? I'm assuming we're talking about staff training.
We don't have a particular budget line for training, but it's an area of focus. We try and have our older assistants or head professionals training young guys. I'll tell you one thing we've done quite a bit of the last few years is we have our vendors come in and vendor education night. We come in, have them speak to the crew. We buy everybody dinner. We're getting education points for it. Learn more about the product, how we can sell it better, how we can be better merchandisers, how we can grow as professionals, whether it's an equipment vendor or an apparel vendor. But we've done that a lot the last few years, and it's really paid off.
And you'll get continuing education.
We do to the section. We talk to the section ahead of time, and also to the manufacturers. We get education points for that. It's cleared through the section office, and it's a good opportunity to team build, but it's really good to continue to train and see how other people are doing it.
Sure.
And how we can do it better. We don't have all the answers, we know that. And these guys go into every shop in the section, and they see what's working and what isn't. And I think if you ask them honestly, how are we doing? How can we get better? What's working somewhere else? And you implement some of those into your own operation, that's valuable. So we do not have a budget, a training budget line item, but it's certainly part of the program.
No budget for me.
No.
And I probably do a pretty poor job of training my guys. I really sort of throw them in the deep end and see if they come up floating. My guys do a great job of training the young guys, and I really kind of leave it up to them. If they need help, I step in, but it's pretty rare. And we don't meet as often as we should. Certainly Oakmont is incredibly busy. Seminole is not busy, but at Seminole I have a little tighter rein with my guys down there. I spend a little more time with them because I do have the time. But Oakmont, pretty rough. So Devin's been my guy for 2 or 3 or 4 years now, and he does a great job training everybody.
So then it's really kind of delegated down to the senior assistants or whoever that is to really kind of get the culture known for everybody.
It is. We try and have folks through the program for extended period of time and have them teach the younger kids as to how we like to do things, or the processes, policies, if you will. And so it's really more self-policed, frankly.
We got another question here from Drew Glover. Do you have any advice on your member service team in regards to training, retaining, rewarding, and incentivizing? We have a large golf staff, 12 to 20 guys. but we struggle keeping them longer than 6 months. We're non-tipping facility, paying them $10.50, $11.50. This seems to be our biggest struggle in regards to our golf staff, and I'm assuming you're talking about outside services. So the question was, any advice? Okay, so you say a member service team in regards to that training and retaining.
The service staff, I mean the outside guy, the outside
Yes.
out guys.
Mhm.
Well, you know, those are really it's our farm system, you know. I mean, I get 5 or 6 guys a year that at Oakmont that we watch, and most of those guys, I'll pick 1 or 2 a year to bring inside. And you know, frankly, I want to turn over there, you know, because after 6 months, really, I kind of know whether he's going to continue on or whether he should go back, you know, and figure something else out. And so, I don't know. I mean, the outside out guys. They're not going to be there for. I don't want them to be there for a long time. They don't want to be there for a long time. So we want them to move on.
Yeah. So in that instance, you're talking about guys that are looking to get into being
An assistant.
club professional. Steve, do you have that same, or do you have some that are more, what I would say, non-golf people?
You know, we do have some folks that a few, not many. I really try and recruit people that want to be in the business and want to become assistants and move on, just like Bob was saying. So I'm not really looking for someone to be in that role for a great length of time. Whether we have an opening at Capital City internally or there's an opening in town, that we can help them get to where they want to go. I think we've tried to create that culture, and people seem to know that if I want to get in the business and I want to try and become an assistant, whether it's at Capital City or, like I said, another private club in town, we all try and do our best to recruit kids that want to move on. So like Bob, I wanted to move on after a certain amount of time. Some things we do for incentives, we do have, I don't know if this person has the ability to have them playing privileges or hit balls or slow nights or the like. I think some of your guys have that ability. At Seminole, some of the folks do have the ability to play a little bit of golf, which is another incentive for sure.
Some non-monetary.
Some non-monetary things. We do go out, take the guys out for dinner, and try and get together the staff at least once a month. That's important for them, I think, to help them feel part of the team. One of the things we also do is try and empower them by communication. We give them what we call a weekly buzz sheet and what's happening for the week, what events are coming up, so they can feel part of it and ownership, help cross-promote events that we have at the club, whether it's a function in the club or another part of the club or a tournament we have coming up. I think if you empower them with some information, they feel a little bit more part of the team and not just, I'm out there cleaning clubs for the guys and I'm not getting anything out of it. So we really try and include them into everything we're doing.
And how is it, I'm assuming that's emailed to them, but my question, do you keep that at the bag drop area or in an area that's...
Buzz sheet, and we give out, we email them, we do have we do have a bag drop area where we have notes, obviously what's up and coming, but we can communicate a large amount via email and internal communication in that regard.
Well, it seems like I always I thought the way that golf clubs were set up was a little bit backwards in that, your higher level employees were the ones in the inside and your, not, I don't want to say lower level, but your lower income or pay guys are out front, and they're the ones that are touching the members, and they're the ones that are going to get the questions asked of them about when's the member guest and this and that.
Right. So we try and make them feel a big part of the team as they are. Frankly, they're just as important as any team member we have, because you're right, they do touch them, exactly, they touch the members more than any of us a lot of times, so it's a key position to have, and
sure is.
You want to have great kids, you want to have great people in that role, and you want to have them want to move on, in my opinion.
That's the incentive.
To move on.
Do a great
Right.
job, come inside, or have us help you get a job throughout the industry. I mean, it's a lot of incentive.
Right.
And I know coming to work for Bob is a big deal. If you went to work, he wouldn't say that, but if you went to work outside operations at Oakmont or Seminole, you've got an opportunity there to take advantage of, and you want to really do your best. So you're incentivizing them by the opportunity, which is, I was an assistant in the New Jersey area, working for David Glanz. I was teaching. I was teaching quite a bit. I enjoyed it. But I knew I wanted to round out my background and become a head professional. So I reached out to Bob and inquired about a position there. And he didn't have one at the time. And he was nice enough to say, I'll keep your resume on file. If something opens, I'll call you. Sure enough, I think Paul Renee at the time, then Paul moved on and got a great job in Buffalo, I believe.
Right, Park Club.
Club in
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
And Bob reached out and said, I have an opening, I'd love to talk to you about it. And we played golf. This is exactly how this worked. We played golf, and that was part of the interview process. I played with some members at Oakmont, played with Bob, played 2 or 3 times, I think, together down in Florida at the time. It was in the winter. And where I'm going with this is sometimes it wasn't a monetary decision for me. In fact, it wasn't even a lateral decision for me. I was doing well teaching. I took the position strictly for an education to move to Pittsburgh. I had never been to Pittsburgh. I had never been to Oakmont, but I knew I wanted to work for Bob, and that's the incentive, the education part of it.
Step back to move forward.
And that was it. I always thought, I could see, and I was in New Jersey at the time, and the jobs in the section were going to guys outside the section, if you really thought about it. I think Doug Steffen at Baltusrol was, Mike Gray at Plainfield. Some of the bigger jobs in the section weren't being filled from inside the section. So my thought was, if I ever wanted to come back to New Jersey or New York and that Philadelphia part of the world, it's okay to go get a great education somewhere else, and then I can come back in the section and get an opportunity. But while I worked for Bob, my main goal was to, truthfully, to make him look great, and he didn't need any help but doing that. But we want to do everything we could to free his life up and make things as easy as he could for him, so he could do what he does best, and that's be with people and make them feel important.
Georgie Sauer, Georgie Sauer.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, we've talked a lot about guys coming to work for you and moving them on. What is that life cycle now versus 10 years ago or 15 years ago? I mean, have you been able to keep the 3 or whatever that goal is? Is it 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years? Because we talked about less opportunities. If these guys are moving, maybe they need to take a lateral move. It's not going to be to jump into their first head professional role. But have you been able to maintain, Bob? Have you been able to maintain that life cycle for your guys?
It's growing, Patrick. I will say, it used to be when Steve was kind of a 3-year deal, 2 or 3 years, and boom. And some guys went out quicker. Adam Brigham went to Phoenix Country Club after a year and a half. I think James Swift did too, really quickly. But but now I'd say it's a little tougher. So the guy, I don't really have a 3 years and out kind of a rule.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys did, but I would say now it's probably 5, 6, and 7 years before they get out.
I'm assuming, and I don't want to make any assumptions here, but if you go to work for Bob Ford, are any of your guys not moving into head professional roles? Are they? Have you had anybody that's coming in? Hey, we need to get you a new experience. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to go to wherever.
Yeah. I can't recall through the years because there've been so many of them, but I know specifically 3 or 4 kids that got out into the rep business. And I've got 2 sons who were at Florida State in the PGM program, and whether it's my son, whether it's my assistants, the outside staff, I tell all of them, this is just an incredible opportunity at this time in your life to, experience, this situation, and to meet people, and the exposure you're going to get is extraordinary. And, sometimes somebody, maybe a member is going to grab you and say, I want you to come work for me. And that's great. You're in a position to be able to take advantage of any of those opportunities. I think to become a head golf professional, I think you have to be, like I was, you have to be a degenerate, a golf degenerate, like Steve. you know, we just love to play the game, we love to be around the game, we love to be at the club. It's, you know, it's got a lifestyle really for us. And, you know, not all guys are cut out for that. You know, if you don't have an unbelievable passion for the game, you're probably not gonna, you know, be incredibly successful in it. I think you have to have a phenomenal passion to play the game and to be around people that play the game. I mean, you don't have to play well, you just, you know, have to really enjoy the game. Because, you know, we give our life to it, you know, weekends and holidays.
Right.
We, a lot of sacrifices to be a golf professional. So I just tell all the guys, keep your options open, you know, and I'm gonna support you no matter what you do. You know?
The saying, you know, it's funny anymore. I try and I tease the guys don't really know this, but I try and talk them out of it. You know, when they come and ask, hey, you have an opportunity, can I come work for you? I really try and talk them out of it. Think about it. Why do you want to do this? I mean, weekends, holidays, you're away from your family, and your buddies are playing golf, and you know, you're helping to fold shirts in the shop and bring rich dads. I mean, is this really what you want to do?
Right.
You're not getting rich. You know, you're not getting. You can be a lot of time, a lot of hours, and you know, just really test them to see if they want to do it or not. Some guys do, some don't. You know, and it's a lifestyle, as Bob said. It really is. So, look, when they come work for you, you're going to support them whatever they want to do, and give them every opportunity to do it. So.
Because they are doing the blood, sweat, and tears, you know.
Sure.
They're doing it.
So with that, you know, what I've seen a little bit of, you mentioned here a couple guys have gotten out into being reps, whatever. I'm seeing guys that are getting, you know, 3, 4, 5 interviews, you know, knocking on the door, and they just get to the point where whether it's just the emotional roller coaster, they can't do it anymore. I mean, I've been there. But they end up, you know, leaving the business, which is unfortunate because I mean, I'm viewing it that we have a lot of good people that are leaving the business, and you know, how do we change that trend? I mean, I don't think we're going to answer that now, but have you seen that with any guys that are?
Well, it's a supplier demand deal, you know, and I've had great assistants that ended up being great golf professionals have to go 8, 9, 10 interviews, you know, before they hit. I mean, it's like fishing, you know. And so I tell those guys, hang in there and keep at it if you really want to do it. Don't give up.
Yeah.
And if, you know, if you're not into it and you've had enough, then get out.
You know, sometimes those opportunities where you interview and you don't get the job, those are the best things that have ever happened to you. Who wouldn't maybe have been a good fit. I think people have to remember, you're interviewing the club as much as they're interviewing you.
Absolutely.
You need to really look at the opportunity, ask questions, come prepared to the interview to you know, to talk about things that you'd like to see answered. And you know, I think you got to be yourself. And if you're not in the interview process, you're somebody different, or you're putting on a face where you think you're trying to be what they're looking for. But sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it doesn't. So it's timing, it's being genuine and being yourself. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. And a lot of times, maybe it's better if it didn't.
Well, I think that two-way street is what I would mention, and what I do talk to a lot of assistants about is that you know, you need to understand whether it's the right fit and whether this is going to be a good thing for me. Now, look, everybody wants to make that leap, obviously, to support their family and everything. So I've been there. You know, you just kind of you get in that process and you see yourself there. You're moving your family, or you know, but then is it you really? I mean, it's difficult, I think, for people to really look at that club and say, is this going to be the right thing for me? But I think it's really important for the younger guys. You know, and I think the other thing is, what do you? We talk a lot about the millennial generation, right? I mean, these are your assistants now, probably the millennials. So, what do you think their expectations are coming out of PGM schools? You know, and how do you manage the expectations, knowing that the life cycle that we've talked about here is longer? You know, I mean, how do you tell I guess coach an individual to say, hey, you know, it's going to take you 12 years probably, or whatever that is, as an assistant, to finally get to where you want to be?
Well, I try to have them understand reality. You know, and there, you know, there's 1 in 5 kids that come out of those schools that think that they're gonna beat the world, you know, and they're the next, whatever they think they are.
The next
It's gonna
Rob Ford.
happen really fast for them. But most of the guys are realistic. I think it's up to us to paint them a realistic picture too. You know, I would say that, you know, by the time you're 30, you know, you ought to have a pretty realistic chance of getting your own job. So the kid that's 25 doesn't think he's gonna get his own job. Well, a lot of, you know, some of those kids do. You just have to kind of, you know, somehow put them in their place.
Well, yeah, I think that's the case. You know, I think some of the kids come out of school with the expectation that they're a PJ member, that they're going to get their opportunity at 25, 26 years old. It may happen for some, but the reality is it won't. And it's not because of they don't have the schooling. They just oftentimes don't have the life experience or the opportunity, the maturity level that they've been around to get an opportunity at a position like that. And sometimes they will want to advance really, really quickly. And that's where sometimes I see some of the younger kids misstep a little bit. They maybe take an opportunity that's available, whether it's, and it's not the right fit. And they become disenchanted with the role, or it doesn't work out. I think they're better off in a program and trying to advance internally before they get their own opportunity. And it's our responsibility to help educate them and coach them on that. It's okay. And you don't have to advance. I think some of the kids that think if they're a head professional like 25, it's not working for them. But I think 30 is a pretty good number, you know, personally. It was certainly at the positions that I was trying to take a look at.
Well, it's I want to kind of switch gears here, and I did want to touch on talk a little bit about communication, just you know, staff and member. How and Bob, Steve, you've obviously seen change, but Bob, you've seen a lot of changes in communication in general.
He's 100 years old. I mean.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
We feel like it someday.
He went from the telegraph to the phone, to
Right.
the cell phone,
He's seen it
to
all.
email.
But how, you know, especially in the last, I guess, 10 years, you know, how have you managed that communication, the changes in communication, not only to the staff but to the members as well?
Well, I think everybody knows how we've done it. I think that, you know, one thing that I'm queer about, I have to return calls and return emails promptly. And I don't care what the call is about. I don't care who it is. I can't stand that somebody called me and wanted me to call them back and I haven't called them back. So I think I'm probably obsessive compulsive about that. But at the end of the night, I go to bed and I don't really owe anybody anything. You know, I've returned their email, I've returned their phone call, their text. That's really all I can do, you know, from a electronic standpoint. But you know, it was pretty easy through the years to go through all those changes that we've gone through in society. And I just would tell guys that to be really diligent about returning people's phone calls. Members, vendors, there's anybody that calls you is an opportunity to help somebody. They called you for a reason. They need you to help them do something. And I'm just obligated to try to help people.
Do you have is it a 24-hour rule, or is it just as soon as you get it, you've got to try to get it?
Well, I do. I get back right away. And just don't, you know, I mean, that's kind of my homework. You know, I like to get my homework done so I can go relax. I do it quickly.
How many of those communications are you getting in one day?
I don't know, 40 or 50.
And you're still able to do that?
I do it throughout the day. I do it, get it off my plate. Yeah.
It's a good lesson.
He's as good as I've ever seen at doing that. He's terrific with it. I'm not as
One of
good
the few
as he
things
is.
I'm good at.
No, that's not true. He's the best I've ever seen at doing that. I try to do it. I'm not as good as Bob at doing it. You know, communication, some of the things that, we had this conversation not too long ago about Facebook or Twitter or things of that nature. We really try and stay off of all those things, and the staff stay off of all those things. It's something that the younger generation is really the texting and the constantly looking at your phone and the communication that they have. That's a challenge for us, and it's always it's something that we try to pay attention to, but, it's something I think all of us as an industry need to take a look at.
Do you guys have any specific rules for the staff around, what's on their Facebook page or?
We sure do.
We do.
That's really just kind of come to a head this winter. I talked to all my guys and spent some time with Brandon Walsh at the country club, and he has a very detailed written, as you can imagine. Brendan's right down the line. He's so good at what he does, but my staff is not allowed to say anything communicate on Facebook or Twitter about the club, about anything.
Both clubs?
Both clubs. And I really don't like them texting and having those kind of relationships with members, email, texting. I just don't think it's healthy, really, unless it's business related. I don't like them socializing like that. I think there's kind of a line there that we don't want to get. We want to be friendly but not friends and hang out together and go drinking together. But that's not going to happen.
And we've talked about this, in fact, we talked about it at length this winter, saying we've adopted a lot of the same policies that Bob has, and even as far as saying thank you notes that go out, if it's what warrants a thank you note and what doesn't, and if it's if the member takes the staff to a ball game or something, it's one note that goes out with everyone's name on it. It's not just
see who can outdo the other.
See who can outdo the other with a note, or how many times they send a note. It's we really try to pay attention to the communication that's going out to the membership. I think that's a big part of your question was how has communication changed, and a lot of times I don't like email. I'm not a big email guy. It's obviously something that we do every day, but it's hard to know how the person is coming across. Are they kidding? Are they not kidding? Or what's the tone of the email? So I think it's important to really review that policy internally, and sometimes have I wish that email had a safety on it. If you don't like it,
right, pull it back.
Long story short, but if you do receive, pay attention to the emails that you get, what your response is, and I just sometimes I get nervous. You send a response, and it can be forwarded on to anybody,
right?
And you got to pay attention.
I can't tell you how many times I've started to type an email back that has gotten me emotionally charged about something, and then I've just clicked it off and picked up the phone and called that person, and I always felt better about that, because you get those emails and you have a reaction to it. You don't know really maybe what this person's saying, and then your reaction may not be. It's a miscommunication, and then like you said, it could be forwarded on. So anyways, that's good stuff there. So we've got a couple more questions, but this one's very broad. But so the future of the golf professional, and what's the next generation? What do they need to be prepared for moving forward?
Well, I would say a tough battle. To get your own job, it's tougher today, I think, than it was. I think the X's and O's really haven't changed. We're all about taking care of people and making their experience at our facilities exceptional that day. And I don't think those, fundamentals aren't going to change. And I think just going back a little bit with Steve about our assistants and things, and particularly when they get to the interview process and there's 6 guys and any one of them could be great. There's no rhyme or reason why this guy got selected over everybody else. Many times it's a done deal through a network of things that they're just trying to show the membership that they're going through the process, but they already had the guy picked out because of some relationship with somebody else. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. These guys they shouldn't get upset about not getting jobs, because it's crazy how they pick guys. Just depends on who's in the chair making those decisions, really.
Mm-hmm.
But the next generation, what are they going to be prepared for? I think it's difficult. Our jobs are tough, and I'd like to see a lot of our guys become general managers, because I think there's a real void there with getting golf savvy guys in those positions. It's mostly food and beverage oriented, and for them to, that relationship's a struggle, I know this fellow, the question he asked was in relation to that. And so those are the struggles you're gonna have.
Well, I would think, the way I view it, around that, with the GM, I think there's a great opportunity right now for the golf professional to become, to have more and more golf professionals becoming general managers, and tell me what you think, but, I don't think that the general managers have the ability, as clubs, as we know, we see them consolidating these two positions. And I don't think that a lot of the general managers have the ability to step down and do, what the golf professional does because of maybe the interpersonal skills that are involved. But I think the golf professional has the ability to do what the general manager does. Do you think there's that opportunity?
I think without question.
Well, I think there is a good opportunity for that, but I think there's a lot of general managers out there who are really sharp, really good at what they do, communicate beautifully, and have the right mindset and the right approach. But obviously, there's some that aren't, that don't. But I think there is a greater opportunity to become a general manager at a facility. That's why I marvel at someone like Gene Matari or Phil Ondy, who do both of those roles beautifully, seamlessly. At big facilities too, not just Saucon Valley.
Yeah, Gene's amazing.
Premier facilities in the country, so
Yeah.
I have incredible respect for him and what he does. And I think Bob's right. I mean, in the future, be prepared for anything. Frankly, I mean, it's tough, it's competitive. I wouldn't. You got to know in an interview you didn't get the job. It's okay. You're going to go through 2 or 3 of those, and you'll find the right job and the right fit. As Bob said, the cream rises to the top in a lot of these occasions, and sometimes it's a done deal. It's an inside job, if you will, for getting the jobs. They're already predetermined, and they're going through the exercise just to please the membership or the board or what have you. So I wouldn't get discouraged in that regard.
Final question, and this is for you both need to answer. Who's your pick for the NCAA tournament, and who's your pick for the Masters? Steve.
Oh, and Notre Dame, Fighting Irish. I'm a Notre Dame alum, so that's a sentimental pick. I don't actually think they're going to win, but I think it's Bill Self in Kansas's time to get it done this year, so I'm picking them. And pick for the Masters. I think Adam Scott's going to get it done again.
Wow. I'm going with Jason Day and the Tar Heels.
Oh, the Tars. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I really want to thank Bob and Steve for both being here. If anybody has any questions after our interview here to follow up on, certainly email me. I'll pass it on to them. But really appreciate everybody's questions that came in, and great conversation. So again, thank you guys for taking the time to be here.
Thanks for all you do for all the professionals, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you for being our head professional. Take care of us.
That's right.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.